Are you someone that has a love-hate relationship with sugar? Do you find yourself constantly oscillating between excessive indulgence to radical avoidance? Or do you often encounter guilt or shame whenever you consume sugar? In this video, I'm going to share with you my confrontation with the sugar fear. And I'm going to share with you some pretty wild revelations that I've come across on this journey. So I really do hope you brought your sweet tooth, because you're in for a really sweet treat. Hello friends, my name is Jaishal and I've been navigating this path to wellness for well over a decade. And oftentimes it's been really frustrating. I'd often head in one direction only to have to make a U-turn and head in a complete opposite direction because of something that I learned that was contradicting my earlier learnings. Now I'd like for you to join me on this journey towards mind, body, and soul wellness. Not so that you can get frustrated with me, but more so that I can share with you some of my experiences and hopefully help you avoid some of the pitfalls that I've fallen victim to along this journey. So I do invite you to please subscribe to this channel and share it with someone else that you think can really help and make a difference to their lives and their journey towards wellness. Now before I get into today's video, I just want to remind you that none of what I am going to share is considered medical advice. This is for informational purposes only, and you can read the full disclaimer in the video. Okay, let's get into it. I want to take you back in time. Back in time when I was growing up as a child, so that I can add more context to you understanding how I developed the sugar fear. So when I was growing up as a child, my favorite chocolate was that Cadbury crunchy chocolate. I really loved this chocolate because it was just the right taste for me, and it really satisfied that craving for something sweet. Now oftentimes my mom used to tell me, don't eat so much chocolates because it's bad for you. You can see all these people eating a lot of chocolates and often ending up with diabetes or some other chronic condition because of their sugar indulgence. So I started to develop a huge sense of fear and guilt towards sugar, and I avoided chocolates. I tried my best to avoid chocolates, or at least consume them very less often. But as a young child, I thought chocolates were associated with sugar. So all that I done is I switched out my chocolate indulgence and I went over to cookies or biscuits. So in South Africa, my favorite biscuit at the time was Eat Some More. And I used to absolutely love Eat Some More biscuits. So I used to devour an entire box all by myself. That was my favorite biscuits. And I thought, well, there's no sugar, there's not much sugar content in a biscuit. The adults are consuming it, so surely it must be fine. Not realizing that even biscuits have quite a large amount of sugar in it. But as a child, I couldn't know better. So that was ultimately what resulted in me developing the sugar fear and just switching out to other products that were considered normalized. But what's important to remember is at the time the media was also hyping up this sugar fear. So this only ingrained the notion of the sugar fear. And they continue to do it right up until today, with many of the pundits basically saying that you should avoid sugar. Doctors and all these professionals saying that you should avoid sugar because this is often going to lead to diabetes or some chronic condition that's associated with sugar consumption. So let's fast forward. Let's fast forward to when I was a young adult and I developed a chronic condition. And this led me to experimenting with so many different diets to try and identify a potential solution to help me erase this chronic condition from my life. And so I'm going to take you through my journey across these various diets because this led to a number of revelations for me, especially with regards to sugar. So everyone's hopefully familiar with the keto diet. The keto diet is one where you strip out the carbs, you strip out the sugar, and all that you're consuming is fats and proteins. because, well, if you strip all the sugar out, then surely it's better for you. And what essentially happens is your body runs on ketones rather than glucose. A better source of fuel? Maybe for some. I tried the keto diet. I'd done the keto diet for potentially maybe about 3 or 4 months. I tried the vegan version of the keto diet. That didn't work out well for me. I had less energy. I was having so many breakouts as a result of being on the keto diet. I felt miserable as well because I just didn't have the energy, and I felt worse. My chronic condition only got worse on the diet. So I left that diet. I tried the vegan diet, the pure vegan diet, but I incorporated a lot of the processed foods. So as you know, with the vegan diet, if you're consuming processed foods, it's not that good for you either. So that didn't help. And I'd done that diet for maybe a year plus. I switched over and I tried a more intensive vegan diet. I tried the raw vegan diet, sticking mostly to whole foods, a lot of fruits, and so essentially a lot of sugar, but no processed foods. And this diet worked really well. It worked really well, but the only problem is that I was losing a lot of weight on this diet. I tried to consume more, but I also had this insatiable desire for cooked foods. So I tried steamed foods, and this worked pretty well. So I had maybe about 80% raw vegan, 20% of cooked foods. That worked pretty good. I really liked this diet, and I could feel better through incorporating this diet into my lifestyle. I also tried the juicing fast. I went on a 60-day juicing fast, and I had a lot of juices that were filled with sugar. Not processed sugar, but from fruits. And this was really what led to these insane revelations. Because even though I was consuming so much of sugar through these juices that were all natural, none of it was processed juices, none of it from like the store that you buy. I was buying the whole vegetables and fruits and juicing it myself. And despite consuming so much of sugar content in these juices, my blood sugar was pretty normal. So that led to a really wild revelation. I tried the fruitarian diet. The fruitarian diet is one where you only consume fruits. I felt great. The only problem with the juicing diet, with the fruitarian diet, is that I lost a lot of weight on these diets. But it led to really wild revelations about sugar, and really the truth about sugar. Now let's get into the really geeky stuff. The stuff that hopefully helps to put everything together about what I'm trying to explain in this video. Now our bodies basically run on glucose, which is essentially like when the sugar is consumed, it's broken down into glucose. Our cells absorb the sugar, and so we get energy to do our various activities, and our cells can operate efficiently. Now what happens when we consume sugar along with fats and proteins is that the fats and the proteins essentially coagulate our blood, or it toxifies our blood so that it's incapable of being able to efficiently utilize the glucose in the blood. And that causes the blood sugar to then spike up because it's not being absorbed by the cells, and that leads to high blood sugar. But they always tell you that the sugar's bad. It's not really the sugar, it's the fats and the proteins that are being consumed with the sugar that essentially toxify the blood and stop this process of glucose absorption. Or at least that's my understanding through the learnings that I've come across through this journey. And this makes you think, why do fruitarians seem as though they're really thriving on this diet? I think they really are, because they don't consume a lot of the fats and the proteins. And that is essentially why their blood is probably way more cleaner than some of us who consume the fats and the proteins along with our sugar content. And if you think about it, in nature, the chimpanzee has a digestive system very similar to a human, and a chimpanzee mostly eats fruit. The other thing to bear in mind is that for fruitarians, they are not consuming any processed foods. They're not consuming anything that has been industrialized. It's whole foods straight from nature. And so it's important to realize that the foods that they are consuming is natural products, right? It's straight from nature. And if we think about fruits and these really nutritious fruits that come from nature, none of them have a high fat or protein content. It's just mostly the glucose and the fructose from the fruit itself. So there you go. Hopefully some really wild revelations, and something that hopefully should help you better understand why sugar should not be feared. So thank you for tuning into this video, and I hope to see you in my next video.